Hello, my name is Epic Bubble, and I sometimes go by the name of Simon, and this is a thoughts video. That sounded way more epic than I thought it would be. Anyway, this is less of a view and less of a critique and more just me shouting or screaming my ideas in the hopes of somehow sounding important. This is probably not for you if you want to figure out how the game is fully played, but more just if you want to give my opinion on a game. Now, you may have noticed a lot of the views or a lot of my thoughts tend to be mostly positive, and that's because I want to talk about games I enjoy. I want to get more people to play those games. It's also why you don't see a lot of negative games. Those negative games are probably not in my collection. Those games include Fury Dracula, Dark Moon, and Dead of Winter. Warhammer especially I hate. But those are games I'm probably not going to talk about. Instead, I want to talk about Alchemists. This is a game that came out in 2015 by Czech Games Edition and designed by Matthias Coltre. In it, you are alchemists trying to uncover various alchemical formulas that are all based in certain ingredients. Each game is going to be randomized, and you're going to have to try and work out, using this very handy deduction grid, what every alchemical symbol is for each of your ingredients. What's crazy about the game is that normally you'll need a fifth player to hide the information. In this, it's all done using an app, like so. And the app does various things. The app will allow you to figure out what each alchemical is. Now, this is a worker placement game, but it's not as simply as going to a spot and the game will tell you what each alchemical formula is. No, what happens is the game has you mixing potions, mixing ingredients together to try and figure out what potion they make. And then using that knowledge, you then have to try and figure out, well, what actually the chemical formula is. The game is quite similar, I want to say, to Sudoku, in that you're constantly trying to cross out each thing that doesn't make sense in a hope that you somehow find the common pattern between all of it. So, a quick example, let's scan in those two ingredients. And I should say, the app is wonderful in that it kind of feels like you're mixing ingredients together. When you put these ingredients onto the game board itself and you put it into the cauldron, or in this case, your app, and you kind of scan them in, like so. Gonna quickly scan them in, let's see what we get. So, the game has a wonderful app to it. And that, look, we have our ingredients. So, we have to do this confirm, and it tells us what those ingredients make. In this case, I've made a potion of harm, which isn't really useful. But using this information, we can then try and figure out what the alchemical formula does. And you can be doing that for 6 rounds. In the same time, though, you have to publish your theories on what you think certain ingredients are. Because you see, at the end of the day, it's not about figuring out everything. In this game, it's all about your reputation. You want to be known as the professor. You want to be known as the dean, the academic. You want to be the person that everyone respects because you got the information first. Or you were the one that endorsed that information. You said that information was correct. This game is so thematically rich in everything it does. From every space to even how the rules just tell you various small things, like how in the turn order, if you want to go first, you have to pay a coin. That's to pay for your breakfast for the day. Or even how by the time a certain conference comes around and you don't have enough published theories, people think you're a laughingstock. There's even a case of if you mix potions together and drink them and they have negative effects, it could give you reputation downgrades, or it could mean you're paralyzed for a turn. There's a wonderful thematic reasoning for everything. And it's almost like, how did they do it? How did the designer come up with this idea? Was it the idea or the theme first, or was it this idea of mixing and doing this kind of deduction puzzle together? What's even more incredible is the artwork is incredibly stunning. Everything is captivating from the smallest thing. Even, say, going down to the forest, which you can see that way, right over there. Even going down to the forest, you have a wonderful idea of what just might be involved. Just to pick up the ingredients, you're kind of sorting through and finding out which ones you want. Of course, other alchemists are going to be trying to race you for it. There's other spots on the board, such as selling potions, and each person is going to want something different. For example, a barbarian is going to want a potion of speed and a potion of health, and he's also going to want a potion of madness. Or an assassin just wants potions of everything that's bad. Or a wizard who might want a potion of intelligence and a potion of wisdom, but then he might not want a potion of speed. Perhaps he wants that potion of paralysis to use on his enemies. There's a wonderful thematic reasoning for everything. There's a case of, oh, of course it happened because of so-and-so. For example, of course you lost reputation because your theory wasn't correct. That just makes sense. Or of course you lost reputation because you wasted everyone's time trying to debunk a theory that everyone knew was correct. Again, the game does such a good job of, well, of course. I can't state it enough how the game kind of just draws you in by everything kind of just being what it should be. A lot of games tend to be like, well, why am I actually doing this? In Alchemist, it's the whole game. You are academics trying to get the best reputation possible, and everything you're going to do is going to depend on it. What's also nice is because of the way the game's designed and the way the app works and the deduction, you almost have your brain working in two stages. Even if you're not good at, say, the deduction part, you can still do well trying to get to the best spots and denying your friends, because if you go first and you publish that theory, even though the theory is wrong, you essentially deny your opponent that opportunity. Likewise, if they think a theory is correct, but you got there first, they will have to give you money to endorse it. But you're working two sides of your brain. That's what's so clever. On one side, you're trying to work out all these different solutions to these various alchemical formulas. If this one goes here, then that one, it can't be that one. Well, that means if I get a blue on that, I have to cross out that. And you're constantly thinking that one side of your brain, but at the same time, you also have to think on the other side and be like, well, I need to go to the forest, I need to get more ingredients, and I need to turn at least one of those ingredients into some gold, which I can then use to buy an artifact, which will then allow me to get a few more favor cards. The game has this wonderful almost exercise of working two sides of your brain just to try and figure stuff out. And that's not often something that happens. A lot of times in other games, it's a simple case of, well, what do I need? Let me just go there. In this, you have to plan, and you have to plan according to your deductions. If I know that feather and mushroom are going to give me that negative potion, maybe I want to wait for that adventure to pop up. But what happens if he doesn't? Maybe I should then use people's published theories. If, for example, someone's published that, say, chicken foot, which is an actual ingredient, and toad make a potion of poison, or at least that's what the theories say, then maybe I should try and sell them that. But then what I could do is I could maybe go to the adventure spot, try and make that potion because of those ingredients, and then I can go to the debunk theory part if that ingredient turns out to be wrong. So even though I lost in one way, I score in another. The game is also crazy in the sense that you can actually handicap yourself. You can start the game off by having less ingredients than your opponent. There's also other variations to the game and how you actually debunk theories. It becomes a lot more complicated than simply just trying to prove one element's incorrect. Instead, you have to prove to them that the element is correct. And that's crazy. There is so much to this game. Even the artifacts that you can purchase, which are crazy, a lot of them seem almost broken. Some let you do double actions. Some of them will give you a crap ton of ingredients to use. Or other ones just score you points. Like the silver goblet, it just gives you points because having that is disreputable. Or there be one such as the robe of respect, which just gets you more reputation whenever you get reputation because you're wearing a fancy robe. It's just so wonderful. It's so colorful that you don't often see in a Euro game. Often Euro games tend to be these very dull or drab things of spice trading in the Mediterranean or colonizing Africa or just not really interesting things. But in this, it comes alive. You feel like an alchemist mixing potions and trying to figure out the fabric of the universe. And that's not said for a lot of other games. Often games that rely on theme too much tend to be quite, well, not that mechanically stable. Games like Mansions of Madness, which is extremely rich in this Cthulhu lore, tend to have a lot of nagging issues when it comes to the rules. In Alchemists, everything is so rock solid. There's a wonderful way of playing where you don't even have to do or test potions. You could simply spend your time gathering ingredients, selling to adventurers, and buying artifacts and using other people's information. You could even have a thing where you see someone constantly picking up chicken feet, so you know they must be doing something with it. If they're trying to sell a potion of healing to, say, a barbarian, and they just picked up those chicken feet, then you probably have a pretty good idea of what that ingredient does. So it's not just a game about being huddled down trying to work out a puzzle. You have to look at your opponents and figure out what they're doing. What's even crazier is the game actually has an expansion out. This is the King's Golem. Lovely box art. This came out 2017, and this adds 4 modules which not drastically change the game, but just give you more. There's one that gives you a variable turn order, which means that every round you're either going to be rewarded with something different. It might be one round you might have more ingredients available to you, one round you might have reputation that's given to you, but then you have to lose your actions, or the one round where you get tons of gold, but you might have to sacrifice some of your ingredients. There's another one where each person is going to have a random starting set of items or set of gold. So you might have someone who's extremely reputable but has nothing in their laboratory, or you might have someone who has tons of gold but no ingredients. And that's also so nice. And then of course there's another 2 modules, one of which is you're trying to basically program or figure out how the King's Golem works, and that's going to give you reputations in that way. It's just incredible what they've actually managed to do. Not only have they made a game where this app is so well done and so thematic and feels good to use in the game itself, but then you have a game that's good. It's mechanically sound. There's almost no issues that I can think of it. There's nothing that ever makes me feel, well, that didn't really feel fair, or that doesn't really make sense. Nothing like that happens in the game. Honestly, the only reason I don't get this to table more often is because, well, it's a bit tough. If you're not a person who likes puzzles, if you're not a person who likes Sudoku, and you're sometimes going to get confused of how like these chemical ingredients will work. So I know that, okay, in this case, there's a negative blue on the one and a negative blue on the other. So that means that it's going to make a negative blue potion. Trying to explain that to people can sometimes be a bit daunting, and the game can take a while. There's often going to be turns where players are going to spend hours planning out their actions because you have to do it all at once. There's going to be turns which are going to be quite slow because people have to figure out stuff on the fly, where you're going to have to drink a potion, then immediately you're going to have to try and publish a theory, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to have to cross out this and cross out this. So the game is not for everyone, but it's a game you should try. If you like Euro games, this is probably one of the best. It's not the greatest, but it does something so unique, I can't fault it. I want to play more of this game. Anyway, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. If you have played the game, if you haven't, but at least like the app or dislike the app, maybe you have a problem with app games, let me know in the comment section. And of course, if you like the video, thank you so much. If you didn't like the video, let me know what's wrong. I would love to improve on this. And of course, subscribe. I'm going to be trying to do more and more of these sports videos, and of course, specials as they come out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Bye.